This is Richard Wolff from Democracy at Work, responding to another Ask Prof. Wolff question from our Patreon community. This one comes from Leta, and Leta asks two interconnected questions. They're both short, but they are very important. They come often in various forms to us. The first one says, if we win over capitalism, and thank you, Leda, for that thought, how do we prevent it from coming back? And the second question is, look, in Russia, they did things and they thought they would make sure we never get another Stalin, but powerful leader seems to have come back. Is that an example that somehow you can't ever prevent sociopaths, latest term, from coming back into power? It's a perennial question that has been asked a long time. So I want to begin by saying, in fact, there are no guarantees. There's nothing I can tell you that will guarantee that there isn't backsliding, that there isn't in history examples of momentous efforts over periods of time to get rid of something unwanted socially, and then it never comes back. There is no such guarantee. I think there are processes in history that, if not really irreversible, are very hard to reverse. And let me give you some examples. Over recent centuries, we have taken steps to get rid of slavery. 100% successful? No. But in general, slavery is not part of the normal world the way it once was. And the same is true of feudalism, and the same is true of monarchy, kings and queens. Yes, I know we still have a few left, but if you think about it, those are pale imitations of the kind of power such individuals once wielded. So, yeah, human beings have gone from dictatorship of kings and queens to parliamentary democracies, at least representative. We still have a long way to go, but I think we should beware. It's a traditional conservative impulse that wants to undercut, often in themselves, the desire to be progressive, the desire to get involved, to make good changes, to make society better, to make us a happier people in a better environment. There's always a gnawing worry, is that really possible? Will all the effort we put out come to nothing or be undone shortly after we succeed? That's a worry. It's a normal, natural worry. It is not troubling to me that someone is worried about that. But I want to also suggest that we as a species have learned how to take steps to at least reduce the probability, reduce the likelihood that this sociopath, as she rightly puts it, cannot come back, or will have a much harder time, or it'll take longer. In other words, we make progress. Progress exists. Now to the question about Russia. How is it possible that overcoming capitalism, which on one level the Russians did back in 1917, proved to be something they couldn't hold on to? That the Soviet Union collapsed in 1989, that it reverted to a capitalism, and that it is led now by someone who has an awful lot of power gathered in his hands, etc., etc. And I think there we have really learned something which, if we institute it, will protect us against exactly what happened there in Russia, in the same way that we have been pretty successful protecting against the resurgence of slavery or of monarchy or of feudalism. And here's the analysis. The Russians changed the top of society. Instead of private 1% of their people owning everything, the way here in the United States, 1% of the people are employers and own all the businesses in our society. Instead of just doing that, and that was a big a deal that they did then, instead of that, something more could have and should have been done that never was done in the Soviet Union. And that was a transformation at the base of society, in the workplaces, the factories, the offices, and the stores, to democratize them, to put the people in charge. You would have had to have the concept, which they didn't have then, that a socialist revolution doesn't mean changing simply who owns the business or transferring power from the 1% of the capitalist employers to the government, another few percent. You have to really democratize the society, make a real counterweight to the power you give to the government in socialism, a power at the base of society, outside the government, in the workplaces, that could control and limit the power at the top. Cooperative enterprise, worker co-ops, putting the people in charge democratically by vote of majority, everything the enterprise does, including giving the taxes without which the government can't function. Locating that power in a transformation at the base of society could have been, should have been what the Russians did, and could have gone a long way to prevent the accumulation of power, let alone how it was used, that we associate with Stalin and with the disappointment of what happened with the Russian Revolution. So I think there's grounds to be optimistic that the changes we make can teach us about the additional changes we need to make sure that we have minimized any chance of the return of what we have struggled to overcome. And I think that's what the human condition allows us legitimately to put our hope and faith in. If conversations like this strike you as useful interventions in the public discourse, then help us, partner with us, so you can help us extend the reach of these videos. Share them with your friends, your coworkers, your neighbors. That's a way of partnering with us that enhances all that we do. And of course, if you can help us with the financial costs that all of this involves, we will be that much more grateful for that support as well. Thank you.